Hey guys, Todd James back at you again. This is about my second or third video of the day. Uh, I dedicated today to basically respond to some questions I've gotten over the last few weeks about just a variety of different topics. And I woke up this morning, felt motivated, so here I am. Uh, anyway, this video, uh, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of being a digital nomad. Uh, I, I like that phrase. I like that term. I like that identity, if you will. But with that said, I don't believe I'm anywhere near the typical digital nomad. In my mind, uh, a typical digital nomad is probably somewhere between the ages of 20 and 28. They're probably involved in, they're probably coders, but they're involved in some type of online activity, e-commerce, that allows them the freedom to move around. And what attracted me to this idea of being a digital nomad was exactly that, the freedom to move around. For me, though, uh, I found other benefits that were equal to or maybe even surpassed the benefit of this mobility. And I want to address that because, like I said, I'm not your typical digital nomad. I am 62 years old, a new, freshly minted 62-year-old. But I do have a kind of a youthful outlook in life. I have always, pretty much controlled my own destiny. So I've never been bogged down in terms of some type of thought process that tells me I have to be glued to one spot. I've always had a lot of autonomy, both in my personal and professional lives. And I should make another video about this, but I believe actually that has kept me fairly youthful, both physically and psychologically. And I don't seem to have a lot of the anger and hostility built up in me that a lot of people do that are coming out of a career in corporate life where they basically have had to just hold their tongue for 20 or 30 or even 40 years. I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do pretty much what I wanted to do and make a living at it. But with that said, when I started traveling with the idea of earning a living while on the road, it basically showed that I had developed over a period of more than a decade. I developed a business that had been developed with the idea of being mobile and being manageable from anywhere in the world that I had an internet connection. So I set that up to start with. And then I started looking at places that I wanted to travel to. And it seemed like digital nomads, for the most part, were spending a lot of time in Southeast Asia. That was a part of the world that I had not traveled to extensively. I had spent a fair amount of time in China, but outside of China, I really had not explored a great deal. I'd been to Europe enough to know that Europe wasn't really where I wanted to go. I enjoyed traveling through Europe, but I don't really want to live there. For the most part, I could. I like it just fine, but it's just it just never really pulled me in that direction. So I thought, okay, so this is the chance now for me to, go into Southeast Asia with this digital nomad mindset. And the first thing I found, excuse me, the first thing that I found that really just enhanced the experience in such a positive way was I found other digital nomads that were very supportive, very encouraging, just very positive in their outlook on life and the feedback they would give you in terms of what you were doing, or give me in terms of what I was doing. And all my professional life in the U.S., I had just been confronted all the time with naysayers, people that told me I couldn't do what I wanted to do, that I shouldn't do what I wanted to do, that I would fail doing what I wanted to do. And fortunately for me, I found at an early age the ability to live with and overcome a lot of those objections. But I always really felt a longing for some type of approval and some type of acceptance. Uh, that's the best way I can think of to describe it. Well, when I arrived in Thailand for the first time, and I ended up a couple of days in country, I ended up at a co-working spot. I just felt like I had found my family. I felt immediately at home. There were people there trying new and different things. That we seemed to have a very similar mindset, in spite of the fact that there was probably at least a 30-year age difference between myself and most of them. And that never proved to be a problem or an obstacle in any way, shape, or form. It just worked for me. I mean, it just, again, I just felt like I had just opened a door and found home. Since that initial, venture into Chiang Mai, where to this day I'm spending anywhere from 3 to 6 months a year in Thailand, and most of that time is usually in Chiang Mai. I just love the place. I've been all over Thailand now, and I still go back to Chiang Mai because it's just comfortable for me. I just love the town, or love the city rather. But I've traveled to other areas in Southeast Asia. I've been, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Bali, and I have found a similar positive environment in all of those locations. Different in terms of tone and they're just differences from whether you're in the U.S. and you're traveling from one city to the next. You find different personalities and kind of just a different vibe. And there's certainly a different vibe between a co-working spot in Bali and a co-working spot in Chiang Mai. Just as there's a difference in a co-working spot in Chiang Mai versus a co-working spot in Bangkok. But overall, it's still very supportive. Just very engaging people, and an environment that I really like. So, for me, it's not even so much about travel anymore. I just feel like I'm splitting my life between two different homes. One home in the U.S., one home in Thailand. And I feel very comfortable moving around in a whole Southeast Asian area, knowing that I will find people who share a common interest, a common goal, and it's just been an incredibly supportive environment. But another side of this, another way of looking at this, and this certainly proved to be another attraction as well, is that I personally am. I'm not quite sure how to label myself, but while I have achieved a level of financial success that lets me do pretty much anything I want to do within reason, I'm still a very value-oriented person. And what that means is that, in the city where I live in the U.S., rents have gone crazy in the last 10 years. Just for the purpose of making this video, last week I did a little experiment, or I did a little research, and I went back to the first apartment I had in the city 30 years ago, and I had a one-bedroom apartment. It was a fairly large apartment. It was in a nice apartment community, some decent amenities. It was not what I would call a luxury apartment, but it was nice. It was very pleasant. Fireplace. Nice screened-in porch, had a lot going for it, and I lived there comfortably for several years. But that apartment was $635 a month, and even though I lived there, I was on the road most of the time, so I always resented having to pay $635 a month for what amounted to basically weekend occupancy for me, because I traveled constantly and was usually only there Saturdays and Sundays. But I also thought that, just all things considered, $635 a month for a one-bedroom apartment was high. So now in 2025, I know that sounds ridiculous to me, and I'm sure almost regardless of where you might be when you're watching this, that sounds ridiculous to you, ridiculously low. So anyway, last week I went back to that apartment complex to find out what that apartment would cost right now. And in 2025, that apartment would cost about $1,400 a month, slightly over. It's like $1,410, I think they told me. There's no way. I can afford it, but I would never, ever pay that. I would beat myself up every single month when I wrote a check to pay $1,400 a month to live in that apartment. My mind just does not allow me to grasp that. I don't see the value in that. But with that said, in this area where I'm at, just to give you an example, I don't really see how I could do it for a lot less anywhere else, and I wouldn't want to live in a lot of places where I could do it for less in this area. You're getting into, more problematic neighborhoods, properties that aren't well maintained, things of that nature. So for a nice middle of the road, livable apartment, that's kind of what the market bears in this area. And for a one bedroom, if you want to go to some of these apartment complexes that brand themselves as luxury or upscale or whatever, you could easily go $2,000 a month for a one bedroom apartment. I mean, our rents here are similar to what you see in some areas of New York City, some of the boroughs up there, or in Atlanta, or even Miami, or some of the more expensive places on the East Coast. We have a lot of well-educated, high-earning people in this area, and the rents, both for apartments and for single-family homes, reflect that. So that's just the way it is. But again, I'm not criticizing the rent. I'm criticizing, or at least being cognizant of my bias against paying that much money to live. I just don't see the value in paying that for an apartment. So here's where it gets kind of strange, in that, so when I'm in Chiang Mai, I rent an apartment. I do own a condominium in Pattaya, Thailand, that I've hardly ever used. It's been rented most of the time since I've owned it, and I'm perfectly happy, leaving that situation alone. So when I'm in Chiang Mai, I rent an apartment, and there, I've been renting the same apartment there now for about 3 years. I'm in a new facility that has multiple outdoor swimming pools, has a beautiful outdoor park, has an indoor swimming pool, a fully equipped gym, has massage services available on premises, has 2 restaurants available on premises. And it's a beautiful facility. The whole complex is just gorgeous. I have a 2-bedroom apartment there. Nice views, I guess. I didn't rent it for the view, but I mean, it's a pleasant apartment. There's really no downside to this apartment. But 2-bedroom apartment is $245 a month. With electricity and water included in that, I'm still coming in at less than $300 a month, and I love the place. It's convenient to everything. It's in an upscale neighborhood, and so what I'm getting at here is that, in a sense, in Thailand, I can have a more genuine life than I have here in the U.S., and that while I can afford a higher class life in the U.S. than what I'm willing to pay, I can't afford it. But I can go to Thailand and lead an upscale life at a price that I am willing to pay. So my quality of life actually is probably better in Thailand than it is here in the U.S. And that's something that, if you're watching this and you're over 40 years of age, or, certainly if you're in your 50s or 60s and you're looking at retirement, that's something you need to consider. You need to think about this. If you're even remotely open to the possibility of moving to another country or spending a significant amount of time in another country, is that as expensive as things are here in the U.S., you probably already know that there's a variety of other countries where things are less expensive. That's goes without saying. But you probably have never really thought it through from the perspective that, hey, if I go to another country and pay what I think I'm willing to pay in the U.S. but can't find suitable accommodations at that price point, but if I pay the same thing in Thailand or in Vietnam, or Costa Rica, or pick your country of choice, Belize, I can actually live a better life in these countries at a price point that I'm comfortable with, that makes sense to me, and be quite happy doing it. So that was kind of the second kicker for me. The first part, again, was finding a community of like-minded people that I found to be very supportive and very helpful, and also a group of people that I could also help in turn. But once again, finding a more comfortable life in another country than what I was willing to, at a price point beyond what I was willing to pay in the U.S. So, it really, it all depends on how you look at things. But if you haven't traveled to some of these low-cost countries, I would really recommend that you do so. You certainly should not live out your remaining years. If you're someone who's retired or just are planning to retire in the near future, you should not be faced with the prospect of living, a financially constrained life, or potentially, depending on your situation, potentially even a life that may look pretty much poverty-stricken, when for the same amount of money or less you could live, have a much higher quality of life in another country. I can't talk this morning. I don't know why. And just, I wasn't going to mention this at all in this video, but again, I'm fortunate. At 62 years of age, I am extremely healthy, extremely happy. And it's really, even at this point, it's hard for me to really think about end-of-life decisions, things of that nature. But with that said, I have looked into things like nursing facilities or assisted care facilities throughout this area in Southeast Asia that I travel around. And I know this from dealing with this for both my parents when they needed assisted living and nursing home facilities at the end of their life. What I have found in Thailand is a level of care that would be basically, in the U.S., it would be concierge level of care. It would be like if you were a wealthy individual and you hired a 24-hour nurse to come and live in your house, or live in the house and stay with your mother or with your father. Which, just to define this, in the U.S., that would be incredibly expensive. We're talking $20,000 to $30,000 a month, more than likely, to get that kind of service. But I have found something very similar to that at multiple spots in Thailand, where you're in an assisted living facility where maybe 4 residents in that facility share the full-time attention of a nurse. And they're doing that. They have a living facility, a private apartment or a private villa, with a nurse dedicated to their care, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at a price point that is quite affordable. It's significantly less, maybe 20% of what something like that would cost you in the U.S. So I feel pretty secure in my decision. When I decide to stop travel, I'm probably going to stop on the Thailand side of the equation as opposed to the U.S. side of the equation. When I think my last airplane ticket is going to be a one-way ticket from the U.S. to Thailand, because I feel not only am I in good shape while I'm there and healthy, but I'll be in good shape, or I'll be in a good position when I'm there and I'm not in good shape and I need assistance, or I need long-term care, in my golden years, so to speak. So anyway, keep all these things in mind. I really took this from digital nomad to retirement pretty quickly there. Didn't mean to scare anybody. But there's information in this video for people of all ages who are considering kind of a digital nomad lifestyle, and hopefully you'll find this helpful. If you do, how about hit like and subscribe? I'd appreciate the feedback on my efforts here. And if you have any specific questions, leave it in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next video.